right, my friends, back now, let it rip, tackling the big story on Capitol Hill this week. The impeachment inquiry launched into President Biden. I'm joined now by Sheila Cockrell with Citizen Detroit, a longtime politician here in the city of Detroit, a respected stateswoman, Oakland University political science professor Dave Dulio, a regular here on Let It Rip, and Republican State Senator Jim Runestad, who is no stranger to these red chairs either, and he's no stranger to the red line when it comes to what people are saying on the Republican side about this particular impeachment inquiry. For the longest time, when the shoe was on the other foot, we were talking about former President Trump, and the impeachment was a hoax and a scam and a sham and a witch hunt. Now the Democrats are saying, hey, man, we hear you. Same with us. Do you agree?
No, that's not what they're saying. They're saying, Trump, we had to depose him because we had to have the time and we didn't want all the showboating. We had to make sure he came in for a deposition, and all of his people, Donald Jr. had to come in twice for a deposition. Everybody's come in for a deposition except two Trump advisors who got charged and convicted. So now we have Hunter Biden saying, I'm not coming in. And all the Democrats are behind him. Instead of saying, no, buddy, we need to know the tens of millions of dollars that the Biden family has got over all these years, and the Justice Department slow-rolled this thing for 5 years, and they come up with 2 little misdemeanors when all of the charges were supposed to be felonies. A whole slew of them. This is a two-tiered system. Total two-tiered.
I want to back up real quickly here. You're saying that Hunter Biden is defying the subpoenas, yet we have evidence in 2019 that Trump actually ordered his aides to defy subpoenas and then defended it, saying this is a witch hunt and there's not enough evidence.
Then what happened to them? They went to jail.
My question is it okay for one and not the other to defy a subpoena? He says, Biden says, I want this public, and the Republicans are saying, let's do this privately. Why should it be private?
Number one, you can't do this publicly. You get 1 hour in committee, and everybody showboats, and nothing happens. That's why they do depositions, and it is not the same. Those guys instantly were charged. Those 2 individuals who did not agree to the deposition, they will not charge Biden. But Hunter Biden is going to walk. They'll just say 3 years down the road, we'll have a charge.
What I thought was the point of this segment was to talk about the effort by the Republicans to find some reason to impeach President Trump. We're not talking about the Hunter Biden situation. So I think what we need to, I think we should put in the context of what all of this this approach to politics as theater is doing to the very basic democratic structure of our country, and what it is doing to the image of the United States all over the globe. We are beginning to look like this is a 2-bit operation where we have people just calling each other out and have literally accusations being suggested. The crux of this argument is we're now going to figure, we couldn't find anything out really to charge him with, so now we're going to have quote-unquote an investigation to see if we can find something, even though I already know we can't.
But let me ask you this. Insane. If you have, Sheila, 40,000 pages of bank records that right now that the Congressional Investigative Committee has gathered, and they have interviews with people who are saying things that could be damning, you just let that go?
No.
Or do you look into it?
No. If you've got a charge, make it. If not, why are you doing another inquiry? If you had all this stuff, you've been looking at it forever, you still don't have enough to do anything with it, so you got to have now an official inquiry. It's political grandstanding that's to be a dynamic around the campaign, around the presidential campaign.
Dave Dulio does go right down the middle, because I've heard him talk about both sides here when it comes to the red and the blue and the Trump and the Biden. The weaponization of congressional powers, is that all we're seeing here?
It's certainly sure seems that way. Right. And I think it is not whether or not President Biden needs to be investigated. My concern lies with the institution and the how things move forward, right? If we get into a tit for tat, back and forth, you impeached our guy, we're going to impeach your guy, I think both sides have fair arguments to make about the veracity of each of the impeachments, right?
Is this the way it's going to be for the rest of our lives, where if you don't like the way someone is operating their government, then you turn around and go ahead and impeach them? Because, Charlie, at some point here, look at Trump's situation. You have the 2 impeachment counts. One was about all the Ukraine stuff, about trying to hold back aid in order to get some information on Biden. The second time was the alleged incitement of the insurrection. Is this the same with Biden? Are these equal charges in terms of weight?
Maybe, I guess. Here's what I think. I think these legislators all want to be judges. And they are doing the job of what the Justice Department should be doing.
That's a
What
joke.
is the Congressional?
joke.
What is Congress doing with this?
That's a joke.
They make laws. They do other things. They don't investigate people with the intent of criminal. We want let the Justice Department do this thing. And if it's crimes, do it.
Here's how this happened.
Don't be a legislator. Run for judge.
They didn't have the votes. The Republicans didn't have the votes for the last two weeks. They didn't have the votes.
He wants to be a prosecutor too,
They then heard the testimony of the whistleblowers, who, by the way, the whistleblowers were told, you're not to talk about the big guy, which is Biden. You're not to talk about your dad. You're not to talk about any of the computer from Hunter's laptop. You're not to discuss any of that. And once they heard the testimony, the Republicans who were on the fence, they said, all right, we're gonna agree to get the answers. That's all this is.
Charlie, here's your mistake, right? Thinking as an attorney, right? That this is not a legal proceeding. This is a political process.
Correct.
It was the same when Trump was being impeached, right? It's a political process. Impeachment for high crimes and misdemeanors is whatever the House of Representatives determines is a high crime and misdemeanor.
So, Sheila, is it possible that after introducing the impeachment papers of President Trump, that Congress became a little bit more aware that they have the power to do this? After Clinton, we hadn't seen it. Perhaps other presidents, if you look at Bush and Cheney, maybe there could have been an investigation there. I mean, at some level, maybe these powers are rightfully theirs. Yes.
Well, to me, the issue is we're denigrating the significance of these kinds of charges. This used, I mean, when Clinton was charged, that was a big deal. This is now becoming, it's turning into political theater. We went after our guy, so we're going after your guy. And it is not about protecting the institutions of this country, the bedrock of democracy. We're losing our democratic culture and our democratic process because we're in all these back and forths. I can mix it up with anybody on the Republican side, but at the end of the day, we, in my opinion, need a healthy Republican Party, not a crazy Republican Party, in order to have the democracy
work.
But
would you say that Adam Schiff was just another, is the Democrat version of what you're talking about on the other side? Schiff was determined to build his career in Congress to go after Trump. That was his legacy.
Well, to me, he was building a case. My point is, who's building this Comer guy's building a case? I mean, he can't even figure
if it's a Democrat, they're building a case. If it's a Republican, they're destroying the democracy.
And that's the point, right?
That's why we shouldn't be even doing this segment.
I know you said that.
You said that to begin with. We're legitimizing this mess. But we shouldn't be doing it.
There's an authorized impeachment inquiry that's happening in Washington right now that we're responsible as a media to cover. We're not going to ignore it. We didn't with Trump. We won't with Biden. But my question to you is, look, when it comes to the Trump cases, you've been on the show, Senator Runestad, and you're like, there's nothing to it. And we said, well, there's smoke, there's fire, we should check. You're like, no. And in this case, you have less evidence than you had with Trump, who, by the way, the incitement of the insurrection, that charge, was on tape.
Did you hear what he said? Peacefully. He didn't say go in there and start rioting. He never said that. He never said that. There is way more here. There's way more here than that one speech.
Conversations with Zelensky that former President Trump had, asking for information about Biden, was on tape. That's evidence.
It was on tape, and so was Biden saying, they were getting close to investigating my son, so I held $1 billion up until they fired the prosecutor going after my son. That should have been investigated.
On tape, do we use that, and is this then a legitimate investigation congressionally moving forward?
Congress investigates stuff all the time, right? I mean, that's part of their oversight responsibility that's in the Constitution. But they get to make the rules, right? That's the thing about this. They get to make the rules about what is admissible, what is not admissible. It's their own rules. It's not a court of law.
So who survives this the best in terms of winning this next election? Biden versus Trump. Who survives all the problems and impeachment issues that they've had? Sheila?
I do not know who's going to win this because I don't know we even know who's actually going to be in it by the time we get to November.
Maybe it's not Biden. Maybe it's somebody else. Huh?
And maybe it's not Trump.
Dave Dulio, these two guys going to be our final guys?
It's sure the way it looks right now, but I think there's actually some political risk here for Republicans because right now, Joe Biden's on the ropes, right? He has got dismal approval ratings. The Democratic Party is divided right now over the issue that the last segment was about. He is the most vulnerable incumbent president we've had maybe ever, certainly in modern times. And I think that this might give Democrats an opportunity to rally around the president and actually bolster his approval rate.
Senator Runestad, he's not wrong. It helped Trump, didn't it? The impeachment stuff. It could help Biden.
This entire thing, number one, is not an impeachment. Your listeners need to know that.
It's an impeachment inquiry.
It's an impeachment hearing to get to the bottom of this. And for 5 years, the Department of Justice and the IRS have been colluding to stop all this. I could spend the rest of the show on that.
On the other side of the break. But yes or no, does this help Biden? This impeachment inquiry?
It's going to be a non-factor because Hunter Biden will not be prosecuted for denying the subpoena like anyone else would.
We're going to be back on the other side of the break with some final thoughts after this. Political theater or legit? We go to Senator Jim Runestad.
It's a case where Hunter Biden is going to deny the subpoena and he's going to walk. The Department of Justice is not going to prosecute. The Trump's son had to come in twice or they went after him. 2 tiers of justice, and that's what we're seeing.
I've heard that before from somebody else as well, and we're hearing it again. Dave Dulio?
It's both. It's both. It is a legitimate process that the House of Representatives can go through. It is also an opportunity, just like it was in other examples that we can talk about, for elected officials, politicians to play to their base and ratchet up the rhetoric.
Sheila, you didn't even want to come on to talk about this because you didn't like to legitimize it, but your thoughts.
She's so glad that she did.
She's thrilled that she's back. You have 15 seconds.
This is pure political theater. It is really unfortunate because what it does is it disincentivizes people from participating in the process. That shouldn't be what's happening in American democracy in 2024.
I agree with political theater. Political theater.
Whatever you call it, we have to cover it, and we will every step of the way. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Let It Rip.